This is just streaming live on YouTube.
I believe we are okay to proceed.
Very good. So I don't think anyone would complain tonight about not going to City Hall to have our meeting. It's kind of the uh, positive part of having Zoom meetings that when the weather's bad, you don't have to get out in it. So I think we're all very uh, thankful that we didn't have to get out and drive around tonight. Although our subdivision streets do seem to be pretty clear. So that's looking up. So,
Ours not. I'm waiting for a propane delivery. It concerns me.
oh gee, hope it gets there before you run out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Robin, can we have roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Hensick.
Present.
Chair Stevens.
Present.
Vice Chair Scott.
Present.
Commissioner Hammond.
Here.
Commissioner Roughton. He promised me he'd be here. Secretary Bockert. Commissioner Rubis.
Here.
Alternate Adams. Alternate Quarternick. Commission Liaison Broyles.
Here.
Council Liaison Nyan.
Here.
And Council Liaison Jaxie. All right, we do have quorum.
Having a quorum, will proceed right on along, means that we can officially begin. So we'll start out with the approval of the minutes of the January 27th meeting. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the minutes that were distributed to us? Well, if there are no questions or comments, I think that I can just say that the minutes are approved as distributed by unanimous. I lost my second word.
Consent.
Consent.
Thank you. Consent. All right. So I just want to say, Robin, the minutes that you provide to us each month are just always so complete, and we really do appreciate all your work. So thank you so much. We don't have anyone online with us waiting to come in for any other comments tonight, Joe?
No, Madam Chair, and we did not receive any comments via our website or email or other form. So there is no public comment tonight. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
I believe Miss Edens has her hand up.
Who did?
Hi.
Hi.
I would just like to publicly comment if that's all right.
All right.
Okay, well, I was just going to speak kind of as a recap. So I know all of you, but I represent Ward 2 and I chair economic development. And we actually had our meeting last night. And so I know some of you attended a meeting a couple months ago where Main Street Extension did a presentation about their program. And they are an organization that is provides grants for revitalization of towns that have historic economic districts. And so our wonderful staff, both Robin and Melanie, attended a grant workshop with them after economic development voted to proceed, where they became very enthusiastic about the meeting. And Robin did a wonderful job last night and presented what that application would look like and a vision for the future areas of Wildwood that we have perhaps neglected is not the right word, but we've struggled to build out or provide infrastructure in areas where we have some charming traditional rural type developments, and we have lacked a plan to build in the future with the types of buildings that would be compatible and historic in nature. And so this was pretty exciting for us in economic development in the last couple of years. The only thing that we had kind of done, which really wasn't exactly in the same nature, was at one point we did put an RFP out to look at what a plan would be in the 30 acres that we own for commercial development. And so there's nothing that we've done that's like this before. And so this is really about community building in addition to economic development. And it's about preservation and recognizing the historic assets that we have and building on them. So I'm really excited to get a chance to share my passion. So you all know I have a degree in history and I enjoyed my time on this committee, and it's nice to be able to have that overlap with economic development. So I just wanted to fill you all in, especially I know Dan attended and Steve Scott attended that economic development meeting. So we're going great guns, and Ms. Keefe can answer additional questions as well, or I can try to, and then I'll let you get about your meeting.
Okay. Any questions for Lauren this evening by anyone? It does sound very exciting.
Yes, we certainly hope we have the grant, but we have unique things in Wildwood, and it's been nice to have that recognized by another body that thinks that we could be a contender and competitive in the grant process. So that's really nice. So if you don't have any questions for me, then I'll head out and let you get about your business, and I'll grab a bite to eat and finish up some other work I need to be doing. So
Well, we're glad to see you tonight. We miss
yes,
you on the commission.
thank you for letting me join you. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Okay.
Lauren.
Okay. Any comments by Robin or Joe on this?
My only comment is that we will be presenting on this a little later in the agenda.
Right. Very good. Thank you. So that brings us to old business, starting out with the Wildwood history book. And that was very interesting to read the things that had been changed and added from the January edition. So it's good to see that our comments and thoughts came through. I do have just tiny little, it's just clerical things. On page 2 of our packet for tonight, at the very top, the first sentence, federal is lowercase, state is uppercase. I think they need to be either both lower or both capital. They need to be the same. And the same thing happens down at the next bullet. Should have a mix of local, state, national, and global. State is capitalized and none of the others are. I just think they need to be the same, whatever case you decide you want to use on either one. Do you see where I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. I think you're referring to the department report on the matter.
Yeah, it's the memorandum we have on the history book. It's the second page.
Okay, so we note and accept your edits, and we'll apply them to future memorandums.
Very good. Jim,
Robin.
you're waving your hand.
I mean, yeah. On in the edit, I guess that Jill Von Gruben made on page, I think it's page 7. I'm not sure. On another device, it was page 8, but it's the paragraph. They're talking about COVID, and the paragraph that starts by July, the Delta variant would be the dominant variant. Well, in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line from the bottom, it says Dr. Garza of the St. Louis Metropolitan, and then it
Yes.
goes on. It doesn't say, what his position is, or the metropolitan what, or I don't know.
That's
if
in
you-
the second numbering set in this packet. It's page 5.
Okay,
I see where you're making that recommendation, and I will note that for Ms. Von Gruben. My
right.
suggestion to all of you right now, because I know when I was going through this earlier today as well, I did have several of those types of edits. I think that would be something that would be helpful if you want to redline a document and send it to me over the course of this next week. I can accept those. And maybe we can use this discussion to talk about, more the big picture. Is there any content in here that we need to address as a commission? And this is with your permission, of course, Chair Stevens.
Yes.
That maybe hit the wrong tone or should be modified before we proceed, or did you overall accept how she approached the issue? Why don't we go ahead and start on chapter 5? Were we happy generally with how she restructured our COVID section in chapter 5?
I thought it was still rather lengthy. I don't know if it needs to be quite that lengthy. Maybe I'm just thinking about how it compares to others.
I'll admit that was my initial feedback on it. Was there's a lot here. There's a lot of detail, right? Because it's all fresh. It's extremely fresh in everyone's memory, and obviously hers too. That makes me think: is there too much? I mean, we know why there's that much detail, right? But do we need that much detail in the future? I don't know.
Yeah, she's got a lot of resources there where she's gleaned all this information. I think if we address it as a citizen of Wildwood, what did we experience?
Madam
Anyone else?
Chair,
Yes.
I concur with the past speakers as well. I think the COVID-19 section is too voluminous, and certainly it is a major item, and it may change the way we do things for a long time to come.
Oh, yes.
But there are just, I think, too many details for a book that covers, as she describes in the epilogue, thousands of years. So I would suggest, as Robin has mentioned, if there's anything in there that you all as a group see that could be eliminated, maybe over the course of the next week, and by the end of next week, submit that to us, and we can then consolidate those comments and get them to Ms. Von Gruben and complete the COVID component of the history book.
Yeah, I'm not certain that the charts that she has pictured in there really need to be part of that.
I concur.
I concur.
Yeah, and even just like the Rockwood school district section, I think you could probably do away with the third paragraph easily. It talks about how Rockwood donated materials or PPE. I don't know that that's necessary in this type of book. So but there's probably quite a bit of that we could cull from this. I'm not suggesting that she needs to rewrite it, but maybe there's some various sections that we can all read through and point out and provide feedback on possibly removing.
So it looks like we already have a homework assignment due by the end of next week. But please do respond to Robin with this, because it helps her a great deal in what she is doing. So I don't know how the response was on last month's homework assignment, getting back to her with some comments, but it's a huge task that she has before her, and we want to give her all the help we can.
Yes, and I can accept it in multiple formats too. So whatever is easiest for you, you can redline it by hand and scan it to me. You can go through and use the editing features or tracking features of Microsoft Word. You can drop it off at the city. Just whatever makes the most sense to you, that is absolutely fine. And I'll accept it through Friday of next week.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anything else on that one? Do we need to vote on anything on that at this time?
I would suggest not until we get all the input from.
Right, that's what I was thinking. Thank you. So that would then move us on to the work program for the Historic Route 66 promotion.
Oh, Chair Stevens, we still have 2 items to address from that last item, including the epilogue and the language surrounding capital attack.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Not to say that disappointment's the appropriate word, but I was disappointed with the rewrite on the capital attack. I still think it was not appropriate. And we asked for mob to be changed to insurrectionist, and she carried mob on through in the remaining paragraphs. So I'd like maybe just Robin and I to take a stab at that and not continue to have Ms. Von Gruben provide something that to me is unacceptable for the book.
Sounds good. Kurt?
And again, if there's any commission members that feel differently, certainly I'd be glad to explain my rationales, but it is a part of history. But like I said, we were given the guidance from you all last time to kind of address it in a better way.
Okay, anyone object to this? Thank you, Joe. I think that will be a big help. So, anything else on the epilogue?
Not to dominate the conversation, Madam Chair, but I thought the icons for the bicentennial for the state of Missouri and our 25th anniversary one were kind of welcome additions.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Something positive. And as we said last time, we want to end on a positive note for the future. And that's now it's my understanding that we go forward even past the bicentennial year of using that logo. Is that correct? On the Missouri bicentennial logo?
Yes,
So
we
for
are
anything we
able to
do,
use it with
we
the
can
book
use
this year.
Uh-huh. Very good, very good. And I like our 25th anniversary logo too. So anything else on the ending here?
Well, Madam Chair, if we have no comments from commissioners, I would just, well, I suppose, do we want to make a motion, Joe, regarding what we just discussed?
Certainly, we could maybe just do a motion, second and voice vote, endorsing what the direction we've received and any changes. Thank you, Robin.
Okay, anyone make this motion for us?
I make a motion that we revisit the new edited material and provide our comments and our new material to Robin by Friday of next week.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Chris, second. Any more discussion on this? All those in favor?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of that could be shortened, but I do think the epilogue is very good. I think it summarizes it very well. I think it's pretty good to write history when it's going on at the same time. And how it looks in 20 years, it may be right on or it may look pretty silly. So I think we just take our chances.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, all those in favor say aye or wave your hand.
Aye.
All those in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? The motion has carried. Robin, you got the wording on that?
I do. And just as an update too, I just wanted to let you know that we are currently reaching out to, actually, we've reached out to Reedy Press and we've started exploring who might be recruited as a copy editor for the book. So that's just
Okay, good.
an update.
Okay, that's good. We're moving on down the road. It's nice to see it kind of coming to the conclusion and having our product in front of us. So of course, it'll be a few months, but we're making progress. So very good. So then we move on to the work program for Route 66.
All right, Madam Chair, I do have a presentation for this.
Very good.
All right. Okay, so we've had it on our work program for a while now that we're going to really promote our Route 66 through Wildwood. And we believe we've identified a route for doing this through Missouri Main Street connection. So as Chair Edens of the Economic Development Committee was explaining, last November, we did have a joint meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission and the Economic Development Committee to hear a presentation from Missouri Main Street Connection about a grant opportunity with them for revitalizing downtown. And at the time, there was a lot of discussion about where in downtown. And Mr. Scott, here with us tonight, mentioned that we had a lot of these older buildings with historic significance along our Route 66 corridor. So with that in mind, staff attended the grant workshop on February 2nd and considered that as an opportunity for moving forward. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Main Street so that you have an idea of this organization and what type of service they provide. But first, I'm going to say thank you to Ben White, who was our original presenter for Main Street and provided many of the slides I'm going to present to you tonight. So what is Main Street? Main Street has actually been around for a really long time, about 40 years. It was originally a program out of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And now it's developed into its own subsidiary. And so there's the National Main Street Center. And then many of the states and regions have their own Main Street organizations underneath that. So Missouri Main Street Connection is one such nonprofit organization. So they really specialize in this model of revitalizing older traditional historic districts. And they do that through preservation-based economic development. They have a very strong network, which is one very major plus of working with them because they are so well connected, both nationally and statewide with different historic preservation economic development professionals. And their brand is well recognized. What they advocate for generally is local empowerment. So bringing everyone in the community together around these key spaces and working together to rebuild our traditional commercial districts based on what we have that's unique in our community. And so you're going to hear, or you're going to see downtown a lot on these slides. But really, we're just talking about these traditional commercial districts. And so, so what we think of downtown in Wildwood, our newer downtown along Main Street, we actually have a different focus here because we're looking at our traditional economic heritage in our historic Grover and Pond communities. So again, Missouri Main Street is our statewide leader around this model. And they have numbers to prove their worth. So I'll just throw it up here that there's been $1 billion of public and private investment in these traditional districts since 2006 with them. And this has resulted in 900 new businesses, about 4,500 new jobs, and then almost 500,000 volunteer hours. So people are very, very interested in making these traditional downtown centers come alive again. And then of course, nationally, they have even bigger numbers. And the roadmap for successful Main Street revitalization efforts really follows starting with historic preservation as a tool for this. By revitalizing these really unique buildings that give our community our character and give our place its identity, we can drive economic development, bring people back to those spaces, and get dollars flowing in the community. Main Street's really about inclusion. It's about bringing everyone in the community together to make this happen. And generally, they see a ripple effect in community development throughout the community as a result of concentrating on this core. And they do all of this through their 4-point approach. So again, they are focusing on economic development a lot. So building that diverse economic base, having those mom and pop businesses, buying local, et cetera, getting people to those spaces. But there's also a huge design element, historic preservation of historic buildings, bringing people to these places, a lot of placemaking, and then making these places accessible and people-centered. Then once you have this really awesome asset in your community, really promoting that and communicating your story and what you actually want to bring into those spaces, what your unique features are, and what you would like to see, what the vision is. And then finally, organization. Again, bringing the whole community together, forging partnerships across sectors, and making this vision come alive. So who should be engaged? Everybody in the community. And I would throw up to this list, I would say our schools and our churches as well, especially along our Route 66 corridor, because our institutions do have quite a bit of frontage there and would need to be involved. So everybody should be involved in revitalizing. So what does this look like in Wildwood? What are we proposing? Well, we're proposing that we really capitalize on this unique asset that we've been talking about for years, historic preservation. In fact, we're so devoted to it that we have a Route 66 roadside park that's being planned and designed this year with SWT. We already have so many assets along this corridor, local landmarks and national landmarks. This is a real opportunity for us. So if you look at our old Wildwood Town Center map graphic, I tried to lay it out for you what we're talking about in terms of areas. So here we have our new town center. This is where Deerberg's Town Center is, the new City Hall, and our Main Street. And what we're talking about is complementing that. So really bridging the two and having both our new town center and then our historic town center. And then, and really our historic corridor up Route 66. And then I just wanted to note that Route 66, of course, has always been part of our town center plan. And I don't have to sell this commission on the historic character that we do have along this corridor already. And over the past few years, there's been quite a bit in streetscape improvements. So we already have our bicycle lanes, we have sidewalks, attractive street lighting. This year, we're really focusing on this interpretive space for the corridor. So of course, this commission has been laying the groundwork really for this for quite some time. Moving further up to Pond Historic District, just giving you an idea of the character of the streetscape. We have our national landmarks in Old Pond School and Big Chief. And then we have a lot of automotive oriented businesses and a lot of for sale signs. And we already have some placemaking going on, just some of the random features that add interest when you're walking along there. And then of course we have our Kern service station, which just recently provided us with a model for an adaptive reuse project, converting a historic building into a power washing cleaning company. And this corridor is already being promoted. It's been promoted by the St. Louis Cycling Club for quite some time as a 30-mile stretch to Wildwood's Mount Everest on the Franklin County, St. Louis County line. So it kind of has that cycling legacy, and the Adventure Cycling Association is promoting it as part of their bicycle Route 66. And as you can see, it does go through Wildwood. Route 66 State Park is a spur along their route, but it definitely goes through our corridor. So we have a lot of bicycle tourism that we could potentially promote or market to. And if we were to work with Main Street, we have other resources at our disposal as well. The National Parks Service has a Route 66 cost share grant program that offers assistance with preservation projects along the Route 66 corridor. And then we have the Road Ahead Partnership, which is essentially using Main Street's model only for the entire Route 66 corridor. So they're looking at it from the macro level, and it's a partnership of state agencies, local associations, organizations, et cetera, focused on promoting the corridor, preserving it, and fostering heritage tourism along it. So we have people to reach out to and people to help. Now, one concern we had when talking to Main Street is, well, okay, your model typically involves your more traditional downtown. That's densely clustered buildings around, your typical walkable Main Street. And in Wildwood, our historic economic or commercial district includes several historic buildings that are somewhat dispersed throughout the corridor, and then a lot of vacant land in between. And so one thing we talked about was, well, are you connected to professionals that would help us design compatible infill development, so that we can maintain that historic character along the corridor as new things go in, and then really add to the vibrancy of the space as well. So make sure the right type of development is happening there. And they said they absolutely are connected to those people. And if you noticed, I shared the recordings of one of the webinars that our State Historic Preservation Office gave us last fall, and one of them was actually around this topic of infill development in historic districts. So I encourage you to watch that webinar as a part of this potential initiative. So what does this look like in practice? Like, how does it play out? Well, Main Street comes in and helps us develop a strategy for retaining the businesses that we currently have, recruiting the businesses we want on the corridor. So really going after the businesses that kind of go under that Route 66 theme, like maybe an old-fashioned soda shop or a general store, et cetera, something that would fit in there. Marketing availability of the spaces, and then also marketing the opportunities available. So if a space is perhaps unattracted to an investor coming in because maybe it has some rehab that needs to happen, you know, maybe putting that right on the advertisement of there's historic state credits, or there's historic credits that are available to make this opportunity a little bit more lucrative. And then also, again, marketing availability of a space, and then what it could, you know, perhaps giving an idea of what it could be used for. Marketing demographic information, so making sure we know our numbers as a community. And then making sure, again, that those numbers are collected so that we can tell our story as revitalization happens. And then a key element, of course, is design. It's making the space a place that people want to be. And so that's really, you know, focusing on historic preservation, some of the activities that we've already been doing. Facade improvements along the corridor, beautification. Again, a lot of these things we have been focused on for years. This is just about developing an overall roadmap of really making all this come together. And then, and so this is an example, again, like the streetscape improvements we've already been making them. Adding public art to a space. You know, I started looking at potential spots along the corridor. Again, we have a lot of institutions with some frontage here. This is where partnerships come into play. And then murals, community murals. They make a difference. As I was explaining the other night, back in undergrad, I had a lot of options from getting from this area, because again, from Eureka High School, to SIU Carbondale. In fact, one of these routes isn't even pictured here. I could take 64 to 57 south, and that was probably the quickest way at the time. But what I would always do is I would go through Chester. And why would I go through Chester? Because it's home by the Sailor Man, of course. So I would always fill up my gas tank in the little town of Chester, and they would get my economic dollars. So I started looking around our corridor, and I was thinking, where could we throw up some murals that would promote our corridor and give it some vitality? Wayfinding is important, making sure that people know that what we have, all these assets, where they are and that they're available. So we talked a little bit about that in economic development as well. And then placemaking, making a spot, making a place you want to stop and stay a while. So here in Independence, Missouri, it looks like they have some outdoor tic-tac-toe and outdoor checkers and some community events in some of their spaces. And for whatever reason, I was thinking of like chessboards and checkerboards all along here, but I don't know how realistic it is, but there you go, placemaking. Promotion, image building events. And for whatever reason, whenever I was out at Big Chief and I looked across the street and I was looking at Wildwood Middle School and I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if we had a pop-up drive-in theater one night in their parking lot? Again, partnerships. Having retail business events. So, you know, competitions. Like I know when I was in the capital region of New York, that's Troy, Schenectady, and Albany, if you're familiar with the area. In Schenectady, they would have these wing walks. And it was awesome. You would go to like 10 different restaurants. They were all trying to compete for the best chicken wings. And so you'd walk all over downtown Schenectady, frequenting these businesses and get to know the place and get excited about it. Branding, we're already doing it. We're branding as Route 66 for bicyclists in front of Big Chief. We've got our historic Route 66 signs. So just keep that up. And then selling it. Again, we're already doing it. We have the materials out there. Maybe with our points of interest redesign, we can really heavily promote our Route 66 corridor. And how does it happen? through partnerships and selling the vision and volunteering. It takes a lot of people to pull this off, and fundraising. So generally the revitalization process looks like having a vision for downtown, which is what we would be focused on for the next couple years or so. Marketing that vision to the area, letting people know this is what we're about, and then using those transformation strategies to achieve that vision. And then all on measuring the impact that you're making so that you can tell your story at the end of it. So how do we do it? Main Street has a community empowerment grant that provides technical assistance and training to communities for around their model. So it's a 60-40 cost share grant, and they provide services and we provide 40% in cash to them. They provide 2 years of services through town hall and stakeholder meetings, survey work and data collection, leadership training, strategy identification and development, implementation, volunteer management, and then technical services to us as we start implementing some of our identified strategies. So at the end of the 2 years, we should have an organization action plan or an action plan for the corridor. They'll give us consultation by phone throughout. It doesn't sound like they leave us necessarily. I have a feeling that once you're a part of Main Street, you're always a part of Main Street. And then we have training and reference materials, networking opportunities, and then membership to their organization for 2 years. What we're recommending currently, assuming that we can get all the resources in place, is that we apply sooner rather than later. And the reason we want to move ahead sooner is because we do have this roadside, Route 66 roadside park project coming up. And we'd love to incorporate that into a larger vision for the corridor. So if we were to apply earlier rather than later, we would know by May 2nd if we were selected. And then they could be working with us throughout the summer, potentially kicking off their services in the fall, right as we're coming to a close with the roadside park planning process. So that's just our thoughts around that. But that concludes my presentation tonight. And if you have any questions, Director Vunich and I are here to answer them. And I thank you for following along.
Sounds very exciting.
Very well done.
Thank you. So what are your thoughts this evening?
Steve?
Okay, let me unmute myself. Looking at all those forms to fill out, are we really prepared to fill those out? And the other thing is there's something in there about hiring somebody. Are we prepared to hire somebody for 25 hours a week? Is that something we can do? It looks like an awful lot to bite off. And I don't know how busy you folks are there, but I think it's going to require looks like it will require quite a staff to do this.
So you bring up a good point, and it's a point that we all have shared, and it's certainly a discussion that we're having internally about how we would provide the staff support for this. So I don't have an answer to that right now. But as far as being required to have staff up front, Main Street has said that really what they're looking for is that your commitment to hire staff will happen by the end of them working with us. So we're looking at 2 years in the future. But as far as the upfront building this initiative and working with Main Street, that is certainly a valid concern.
One other thing. Oh, I'm sorry, if I may. One other thing, we're talking about a lot of infill, which be new construction. Should the Architectural Review Board be brought into this a little more intimately and come up with some design standards that will be compatible with the existing historical buildings we have?
I think that's a great idea, and I think that would be part of the strategy that we'd be putting together with Main Street in terms of that overall roadmap of how we would achieve the revitalization.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Mr. Scott, as you'll recall, when Butler Security moved west on Manchester Road, they rehabilitated and restored that bungalow. That was a combination of not only the Architectural Review Board providing input, but also this commission, Historic Preservation Commission. So we do that already. We make sure that there's a coordinated approach and all components of that approach are heard and taken into account before we approve something and issue a permit to proceed forward. I'm assuming you're talking about the ARB being involved in this process, not so much after the fact. Is that correct?
That's correct. I think they should be part of this too, and so they know, have some idea of what we're looking for, and we can know what they see. I think they would be an integral part of this group. I'm saying that as an artist, so there's some bias there.
Tracy?
Kurt would
I just
agree.
had a question. So along those lines of, man hours to go into this effort, would that be something that could fall under the purview of the next economic development manager? If I'm assuming we're still trying to replace Julian at some point, is that what they meant about, looking to hire in the future?
I believe that there's a lot of creative ways that we could make that, I guess, come to that commitment. But again, I think, and obviously it's a decision that's going to happen, within the city administration of how that position is going to be filled. But in terms of the overall, like, what is Main Street looking for, I can say that I believe that there would be a lot of creative ways to provide the staff support that they're looking for.
Comments by anyone else or questions?
Yeah, Robin and Joe, Steve brings up a good point but obviously you've looked at this thing, you've been associated with the Main Street connection and everything. Is this something, and to push it ahead so we get in there on the first shot, that's something that you've looked at? Are you confident that this can be done?
Well, I'll speak from the department's perspective as its director, and I think it's a worthwhile effort. I think given what Ms. Keefe and then the assistant director, Melanie Ripito, have done, I think we can present a very effective case in May when the decision is made, and be prepared to begin that 2-year process with Main Street Connection. I'm confident that given our staffing levels, which are in flux right now, given a recent promotion and then a retirement, we'll do our very best, and I think we can make something positive out of this. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is the catalyst that we've been needing.
I think from things that we've already done, it's helpful for what lies ahead. And as you said, there are many things that you have already taken care of, so to speak, in things that we've done. And it's just a matter of pulling a lot of that together. And it is a big job ahead. But I think that we could get it taken care of.
No, I'm in favor of pressing on.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I am too, as long as the city staff feels that they can handle it, because they're gonna take the bulk of the work.
Right.
As I see it, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Scott. And as you could tell from the presentation from Ms. Keefe tonight, this is something that she's very excited about. And I think Travis Newberry, who some of you know, Melanie Ripito, our assistant director, and I are going to try to do what we can to allow Robin, Ms. Keefe, to kind of concentrate on this when the circumstances demand. Thank you.
Are you looking for a motion to proceed, or?
Yes, this evening we are looking for your support. We will be taking a resolution to City Council. And the Economic Development Committee took action to recommend that we move forward at their meeting on Tuesday. And now we're presenting the same thing to you and enlisting your support as well.
Okay,
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. Go ahead, Steve.
No, you're talking. You do the motion. I'll second it.
Okay, I make the motion. I make a motion that we have the support of the Historic Preservation Commission to foster this project through, and that we're in favor of it and think of it as probably the best catalyst we got to bring about what we've been working on for the past several years to fruition.
Second?
I second it.
Steve seconds.
I'll
Any
third.
more comments? Okay, we'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? The motion carries. It sounds like an exciting time ahead for us all.
Great, thank you all.
And the presentation, Robin, was really terrific. Update on the 2022 work program.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of the commission, as you know, this is a monthly update that the department provides. The work program is established by the commission at the end of each year and adopted at the beginning of the new year. In this particular case, there's just a couple of items I want to mention relative to the list of 14 or so that is part of the work program. The first is, as Ms. Keefe mentioned, Route 66 Roadside Park is moving forward in 2022. And so for your information, on February 28th, this coming Monday night, the City Council will be receiving the bill introducing the consultant for the project, SWT Design, and asking the City Council to authorize the engagement of the consultant so that work can begin in March. And SWT Design has provided a timeline to Ms. Keefe and I. I think it's very aggressive. It ends up with us being complete sometime in October, I believe. So as I say, about 6 or 7 months of work here. So we'll be busy as we monitor and provide you information and seek input. The second item relates to Partner Park, and that's the property that Miss Joanne Yost donated to the city that's located on Hinken Road. On February 15th, at the Planning and Parks Committee meeting of City Council, a group representing equestrian interest in the city did a presentation to the members, and they are interested in potentially partnering with the city on that project. There are restrictions on the use of property that Ms. Yost established as part of the donation. And those restrictions are being reviewed by the city attorney to see if it is even feasible or not. But there is some interest out there, and I just wanted to advise you of such. If there are any other questions on the work program and the information provided, Ms. Keith and I will be glad to try to answer them at this time. Thank you.
Well, I think this chart format that you all have developed to keep us on track of what's happening is very usable and very easy to see what is happening. And we thank you for all the efforts in doing this, because we don't feel like we're in the dark on things anymore. So any other comments and questions for Joe or Robin? Okay. Moving right along.
Thank you again.
So the next item becomes new business, and it's very interesting on the redesign of our points of interest maps that we have had the last, 4 years or so. As someone had said earlier, oh my goodness, this thing is getting so full. Well, that's because we have so many wonderful things to point out to people, but it does become confusing to people as they're trying to use the maps, and I don't think they like going so much from one map to another to see what's going on, although that's what we did to point out all of our positive things. So the redesign will be a big help. Any comments from the rest of you or questions on the proposed one that was in our packets, like a old-fashioned roadmap? Dating myself saying old-fashioned roadmaps.
So, Madam Chair, with your permission, I'll bring it up on the screen.
Okay, good.
And then just do a brief overview of what we're thinking about. So let's see here. There it is.
So Madam Chair, while Robin shares her screen, I want to use one word and one word only: foldability. Foldability. Thank you.
That's a good one.
So what you see before you, of course, is our current roadmap. And as Director Vunich is indicating, size is certainly an issue with it. So our idea, and I apologize the way this is showing up. Okay. So our idea is to model our points of interest map off of what the National Geographic has done for their U.S. scenic drives. So they have their big U.S. map on the front, and then all of their, well, this is tourism resources, but we could list our points of interest. And then what we really liked is how they laid out all the scenic drive descriptions on the back, and then had some, some intriguing photos and just a little snapshot of the route. So we felt like it really popped. So the idea would be to try to get all of our scenic drives on the back of our map, and then have it large enough to where it didn't look as cluttered. And then, as Director Vunich was saying, then it can fold up and be put in a glove compartment, and people can have it wherever they might be in Wildwood to reference.
What are these maps you speak of? This thing? I'm sorry, it was just a joke.
Oh, okay.
Robin, what's the size? What is the proposed size of the map?
Oh, that is a great question. Let me pull out my memo where I have it listed. All right, here we go. So folded up, it is 4 inches and a quarter by 9 inches and a quarter. So again, foldable map. And then when unfolded, it's 24 inches and 3/4 of an inch by 17 3/4 of an inch.
Okay, and that would be folded like an ordinary, like a, to use Jan's phrase, an old-fashioned road map, right?
Yes.
Okay, that sounds, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Any
So
other?
looking at this, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 folds on it, right?
It does look that way, yes.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
And keep in mind too, that this is merely a concept to give you an idea of what we're talking about, but we'll do what makes sense, you know, given our map. And we'll see what we can achieve with our graphic designer.
Yeah.
Where will these be accessible from?
Like where would we
Like,
distribute?
where would people be able to pick these up at? Like City Hall, or will they purchase it, or what?
Well, I think that's certainly a discussion we'll have once we've brought this to our graphic designer and see what comes back in terms of cost and, you know, all of those details. I think at this point, we're just trying to develop a concept.
Yeah, I think we'd probably distribute them the same way that they've been distributed in the past, right? So at city events, pick up at City Hall, that type
I
of thing.
see Joe nodding. I'm also thinking maybe, and I don't know how you all feel about this, but maybe park kiosks too, like at community park.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I think $25 a piece isn't bad.
I believe
Keep your
these
money
are
worth.
10. I believe these are
How many
$10
teams
a
going
piece.
tonight?
I
I like
like
the
the
concept. The other one that we have out now with the park trails and all that on it is very helpful to tourists in the area.
No, I think it's a very good idea.
And Madam Chair, with your permission, and to the commission members, Mr. Hammond made kind of a joke, but whatever we do, we will have a digitized format that's available on our website
Yes.
and on our Parks and Recreation app as well. But we won't ignore what a lot of people and a much younger generation than I depend on and really don't know what an old-fashioned roadmap looks like. So, but I think when Robin brought me the concept, I think the key component here is, and this is just again from my perspective, we've done such a great job of identifying points of interest in now our scenic roadways, but I still think there's things out there that we want to add to the map as we go on. And I think we've gotten to the point where that's pretty darn impossible. So thanks for your support.
And I'm assuming we need a vote for you to go forward with this concept, correct? Do we have a motion to have them proceed?
I move that we proceed with this concept of a foldable with more points of interest on it and routes. Routes.
I would second that motion.
Chris seconds the motion. Any other comments or questions on this? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, move forward on this, Robin and Joe. As I say, I think it's exciting. We have a lot of exciting things this evening. This is really great.
I hate to sound sexist on this, but I'm the one who has to refold all of our foldable maps in my life.
Commissioner Scott can hold a informational session for all the kids who don't know how to fold a map. We can maybe make a TikTok video with him.
Okay.
No, I got the feeling he was referring to us women.
I got that feeling too, Robin.
I think my wife is listening to this program.
Show you this. I just got this the other day.
There you go. Yeah. So,
Haven't opened
okay.
it yet.
Moving on now to the Civil War burial site discussion. Joe or Robin, do you want to start out our discussion on this?
Sure, I'll give a brief overview. So Mr. Abuchan came to me before the holidays, and he was representing the sons of Union veterans of the Civil War. And what he was seeking was information on burial sites throughout Wildwood, which the city does have on file. We have done quite a bit of research in the last decade or so. However, we were hesitant to just immediately give out information, particularly as it relates to private property, given the sensitivity of the information and the desire to protect the privacy of our citizens. So our original proposition to him was to meet with a variety of representatives, including from the Wildwood Historical Society, and Chair Stevens participated from the commission, and also wearing her hat with the daughters. And then we met with Mr. Abushan and discussed his project. So we believe we came up with some different ways to partner with him and to help him in his effort. Generally, what he's looking to do is recognize Union veterans that have been buried in the Wildwood area. And I believe that, since our discussion, he's kind of backed away from wanting to put any specific locations. But essentially it would be uploaded to the registry. I believe it's a national registry under the organization, and he would list names of those Union veterans associated with the Merrimack Township area. But our question before you tonight is, how do you feel about us releasing information about sites located on public land? And do you have any additional resources that we could provide Mr. Abushan to help him in his effort?
If I might follow Robin with a few comments. My daughter is extremely involved in the same type of thing. And she was able to obtain a copy of a listing of Wildwood Civil War veterans and their burial places. And she went to the Sons of the Union Veterans site where they have the registry to get all the Union veterans that they can find listed, so that anyone can go to their site and see where the people are buried. And in doing their family research, which is such a heavy concentration of so many people anymore, not just Civil War veterans, but just family history in general. And all of the veterans listed on the list that she was provided are already on the Sons registry. So that was what he was wanting to do, was to get all of the ones listed onto their registry. All the ones that we have access to at this point are already on that registry. By whom, we don't know, because the registry doesn't say who submitted the information. Anyone can submit information. Julie had started out with our own family and getting all of our Civil War veterans in our family listed on the registry. And then she's gone from there. So I personally don't see where Mr. Abushan has any more work to do on that, since they are already on the registry.
Jan?
Jim? Yes.
Has the city been afforded the opportunity to look at that list? Would the city have any more than what's on the list? That's where I think he might be able to. And then the other thing is he represents the union side. Is there a similar organization for?
Yes, Sons of Confederate Veterans, and they have a national registry that they are compiling and have people.
And Missouri submit. Being a
divided
swing state, we probably have some Southern sympathizers.
Very much so. There are quite a few.
The War of Rebellion.
Right. But that registry does not seem to be quite as active as the Union veterans.
Uh-huh.
It is there. I think it's a matter of who's in charge of it and whatnot. But it is an active process for them as well.
I think just the sheer numbers would be interesting to see that people recognize how many people we had and how bad that war was.
And also, I'm in the Daughters of the Union, and several years ago, we started doing a remembrance ceremony every year at a different cemetery. And a few years ago, before the pandemic, we started looking at Allenton Cemetery. And there was a list that Julie found somewhere online. And then she says, this doesn't seem right. There are so many old stones down there. She said, so she started looking at the stones to see the birth dates of the men buried there. And she says, well, you know, this person was born at a time period when so many of the Union veterans were born. And so she did extensive research on each of them and came up with, I can't remember now how many individuals down there, but there was quite a large number of Union veterans there in Allenton Cemetery. And so she did the research. We had a wonderful ceremony down there. We couldn't find anyone to get permission from to hold the ceremony because every place we contacted, they said, we don't know who owns it. And so finally we said, well, we're going to have our ceremony anyway if they can't tell us who to get permission from. And since then, there has been a lady, I think she has other family members buried there, who has held some work days down there to clean it up and upright some stones and whatnot. And so she's become a little more active. And so they've been doing a lot of work down there, but there are quite a number of names that you recognize in the history of the Wildwood area who are buried down there.
Are there some who are buried not in cemeteries?
Yes.
That, you know, maybe at the site of skirmishes or battles or something where they didn't bring them back to a cemetery. They buried them
I
on
don't
site.
know. There are many buried on private property, a lot of their farms and whatnot. And on the Union database, for some of them, there was one who was listed, was it T in Ossenfort was the burial place given for the person, so not anything specific. And another one was on Bouquet Road, and, you know, just general areas like that. Those are all the private property ones.
Yeah. Albashon wasn't gonna put any distinction on any stones or anything.
No.
Okay.
The feeling I got from the statements that he made, and correct me if I'm wrong, he didn't want to do any repair work. He didn't want to go into ordering military headstones for those that don't have a headstone. His main objective was the database.
So, Madam Chair, to clarify, via your daughter, you believe the information that the city holds relative to private and public properties is already on the site?
Yes, it is. There were 3 or 4 that were not on there, and she placed them on there.
Well, from the perspective of the department, we'll advise Mr. Abishon, unless the commission tells us otherwise, that the information we have is already on site and it's been cross-referenced to ensure completeness, I guess.
Do we need to take a vote on this?
I don't think so, Madam
General
Chair.
consent? Okay.
Thank you for your information. We appreciate it.
Moving on to review a proposed zoning and a site visit. This is quite a good time to make a site visit right now, but the weather's going to improve. So what can you tell us on this proposed site visit?
So as you saw from the informational package I provided you and from the agenda language, we do have another demolition request, this time for 18410 St. Albans Road. And one of the buildings located there was built circa 1913, and it has quite a bit of significance to the community having originally been a site owned by the Funks, Anna and Richard Funk, and then bought by J.P. Connell, who was owner of the Glencoe Clay Company. And so he was actually the builder of the home that's there. And it's, according to our surveyor, it's one of the finest examples from the period of buildings that we currently have in Wildwood. And Joe was even likening it to our Old Pond School. So I don't know if he wants to add to that.
Yes, the particular house on this property, it was my understanding the company that built Pond School originally also constructed that home. And so there are a significant number of similarities in terms of the clay tile, the horse-herd stucco, etc. So it's a real valuable asset. It's a great disappointment to basically hear that there is the demolition request for it.
Do they state in that request what the reason is for wanting to demolish?
I did not see a stated reason when I was going through their packet.
The new owner of property is St. Albans Properties, which is the development arm out at St. Albans. And so they've now, I believe, other than Tom Kelp's property, they own all three corners at Highway T and Route 100.
Is that still Novelli?
I don't know, Mr. Rubis. Joe Potabom is the gentleman I always talk to. And
Okay.
Yeah, I think this property is, it's not, that house is not subject to becoming a new residence. So I think in order to save it, we need to find some other use for it. Now, I'm not sure. Is that proper? What is that property zone? I know it's right across the street from a commercial property at the Kelps, but is that zone residential? Can we look at some other type of zoning that would let some sort of, say, gift shop, residence, B&B, something like that be used, but have a use for that house? Because I really see, as a residence, it's limited, but I think it's very important that we try to come up with some way to help them save that house.
so, Mr. Scott, with the chair's permission, the property zone NU non-urban resident district, just like your home site.
That's what I'm afraid of.
But the good news is in our master plan, we have what is called the historic land use category, which would allow us to do things on that property that we would not normally do in a NU zone site. And that could include some type of limited commercial. So there are some incentives zoning wise that we could certainly offer in this case.
Well, I haven't seen the inside of the building and what conditions it's in, but the outside, I've been around the outside of it and it looks fairly decent, at least as good as Sun School did when we started on it. So I would sure like to go see it and be able to think and look and be able to suggest other possible uses for it that would be financially feasible to the use of that property.
I think that's what Ms. Keefe is trying to do, is schedule an appointment out there so we can take a look at it.
Do we have any possible dates to choose from?
So I did speak to Mr. Kleppel, and he said that he can make himself free anytime next week. But if we need to go further into the future, of course, that's something we can propose to him as well.
I'm out of town Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday next week.
Okay.
Ditto that. Anytime before Thursday, if possible, or sometime the following week.
I think in terms of staff scheduling, we might be looking at the next week. Typically, I found that that Fridays have been working very well for this commission for these types of visits, like Friday morning. So would the 11th work of March?
It works for me.
As long as it was early, it would work for me.
I mean,
I'm doing a
Matt,
presentation at about 11 o'clock that morning for another group.
Okay, so
I
you'd be
unfortunately can't do Friday mornings.
fine. Not Friday mornings. Okay.
If I may, Madam Chair, obviously, I think next week is too much of a rush. And certainly, we want to be deliberate in this particular process as best we can.
Yes.
And it sounds like maybe the following week, Friday may not work. So why don't we send out a list of dates?
Okay.
Maybe not next week or the following week, but the week after. That way we'll have at least a couple of weeks to kind of work it into schedules if at all possible.
That sounds good.
All right, wonderful. I'll send that email out in the next couple of days.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. That will be very interesting to see and see what other options we can come up with for the owners. Anything else on that? We'll wait until we hear from you on possible dates, Robin. The other item is archaeological review for the Bluffview Park improvements. And we have never had an official commission visit over there, have we?
No, ma'am, I don't think so. And there's probably a practical reason for that. And if you'd like, I can give a little background and do it very quickly for you.
Okay.
Sometime around 2013 or 2014, St. Louis County approached the city of Wildwood and asked if we would be interested in leasing 100 acres that at that time was called Packwood Park. It was land banked by St. Louis County, so it was not available to the public. Given the success with the Rock Hollow Trail system, the department was anxious to proceed forward, and very much so the city council at that time. In August of 2015, we opened what now is called Bluffview Park to the public. And the reason we really haven't visited the location is there's not much there.
No, not anymore.
It's a very primitive park in many regards. The intent was to provide parking and create a trail system that would access Al Foster along the Merrimack River. And all of that has been accomplished. More recently, though, Gateway Off-Road Cyclist has created a partnership with the city, and they are doing some additional trails there. And fortunately, that trail system, I believe, will become not only a regional asset, but I think a statewide asset, if not Midwest asset. To accommodate what we're seeing in terms of growth of usership, the department, along with the city council, has agreed to do some upgrades to the facility. And one of the upgrades is out along the bluff that gives what I consider some of the nicest views of the Crescent area and the Merrimack River that are available in Wildwood from a public standpoint. That is where Mr. Packwood's house was located. And there are a number of remnants. They're like ornamental concrete structures and et cetera. So before we began the process of development, we submitted a Section 106 application to the State Historic Preservation Office. We are not required to do it because we are not accepting federal funding, but we thought it in the best interest. So I wanted to advise you of the application and provide you with the plans for the bluff area. And we are taking a very light hand in the bluff area. We do want to make it more accessible. It's kind of rough, and there is some concerns just from my standpoint about safety. There's some rebar that's still exposed that we've been working on and removing as we find it, and it appears. But we want to make it more accessible, and we do want to provide a certain level of seating, but within the context of, as I described in the memorandum, of not overwhelming what really doesn't need to be overwhelmed, which is the view. And so we can certainly take a site visit out there when weather permits. We do have a we do have probably a couple months' time to do that. And so from that perspective, I offer that and I think you'd enjoy it. We can drive down to the bluff. It is about a mile walk on paved surface, but we can access it and drive there. And I would like Mr. Hammond to maybe give his description of the park since I know he's a user.
Yeah, so my family goes there every Christmas Eve and we hike and sit on the bluff and overlook it. It's just awesome. And it's a great, I mean, I wish I rode my mountain bike more. I don't, but it gets a lot of use. And I think even just in the last 6 to 9 months, 12 months, it's really grown in usage with the addition of the additional work that GORC or Gateway Off-Road Cyclists has done. I've got photos that I dug up here from, was it 2015? When did it flood down there? I was there a week before the flood, and then I was there the week of the flood and got pictures. It's just an amazing area, and the views of the valley, the golf courses down there. There are a number of old concrete areas, elements of the home. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know the history with Packwood being there. But there's a lot there. It's just a great little spot. And I say it's a great spot for riding mountain bikes. There's a lot of people that hike, a lot of people that walk, that run, that visit that area.
And there's a lot of people who ride horses down there.
Yay for the equestrians.
Yeah, so I've rode my horse down there many times, and the view from that bluff is great. I will say, if you're going to develop that area, it's a little sketchy. I mean, I would be a little fearful of too much foot traffic there without some kind of safety rail. I mean, not wanting to impede the view, but something to where somebody could not get in trouble there, you know. But I ride past there and stop and look, and people are always on the bench. And, you know, of course, there's a lot more bicycle traffic in that park than there is horse traffic, with it being a one-way in and out. But hopefully that'll change too. But no, I'm glad to see that you're talking about doing more with that area there, because there could be a lot more done.
So, Madam Chair, this is more for information, but if you'd like to, we can certainly arrange a visit down there and get you out on the bluff if you like. And, so that's something to think about.
I think we had mentioned it earlier, and then that may have been when we were visited by the COVID situation, and we cut back on the things we were doing.
And I'm not certain, Madam Chair, but we also have something called Bellevue Farms. And I often confuse the two, Bellevue Farms and Bluffview Park. And they both are on the Merrimack River. So, and we are going to visit Bellevue Farms. That is an active project that we're in partnership with a group called Friends of Bellevue.
Right.
Basically the Sherman residents that reside around the park. But if you want to visit the Bluffview Park, we can schedule it sometime in March. So it's really, you let me know, or pardon me, you let Robin and I know, and we'll be glad to spend an afternoon down on the bluff.
Well, I think, you know, as we
pack a picnic.
There you go. As we talk about these different areas, it is so helpful if we've actually seen it. I mean, pictures are great, but actually seeing what we're talking about helps us a lot.
Like I say, if you want, we can send a couple of dates for a trip down to Bluffview.
Okay.
Obviously, it's optional. It's really, like I say, and then whoever wants to come can come. And if you're not, you have the plans for the project. And certainly, if you have any comments, I'd love to hear them.
Okay.
So at the Wildwood Historic Days, or the Wildwood Days, there was some four-wheelers running around, like golf cart type of things. Would there be a way of using one of those to get from the parking lot to the overlook that day?
Actually, the trail's wide enough, Ms. Kornick. We can use the city van and we can get about 5 or 6 people in there.
Oh, okay.
And
Great.
there's enough room to turn around actually too, if you're careful.
All right. Although the four-wheeler might be more fun.
I know, but I have a city administrator that watches the bottom line. He's an accountant by training.
Right.
So, do we need any official action at this point?
No, ma'am. Like I say, if Robin wouldn't mind, we'll send out a couple of dates maybe to
Very
visit
good.
Bluffview, and then we'll see who's interested. Thank you.
Okay,
Can
thank you
I
very
just
much.
ask- Can I ask one
Yes.
final question? Are the changes, are the proposed changes, it's hard for me just to look at the PDF and see, are the proposed changes really up at the parking lot level or also down? So if you go down the paved section towards the bluff, is there proposals for changes down there too?
There's three major areas of improvement. One is the large island that is surrounded by the parking lot. We're going to make that a lot more family friendly. And I mean that with just a few shade structures, a few more picnic tables, etc. Then there is the current entry area where the challenge or the kids course is.
Yep.
We're going to do something there to kind of make that a little bit more inviting. And then the bluff, that's the third of the three.
Okay,
And
Thank
thank
you.
you, ma'am.
Look forward to seeing it.
so that brings us down to other matters for consideration. There's none listed. Did anyone have any they wanted to bring up this evening?
Ms. Keefe,
Yes, I actually do. Unfortunately, I have some sad news to share with you. I received an email at the end of last week from Kelsey Matson, our certified local government coordinator, saying that she was stepping down from the position, and in fact, she's already gone as of yesterday. It appears that she had family out of state, so we wish her well in her next chapter, and she certainly was good to us. But it does put us in the position of being down a CLG coordinator for a period of time. And she indicated that I should withhold the monthly agenda updates and minutes updates and instead include them in our annual report for this year. So I just wanted to make that announcement. She did give me quite a few contact names for people we can reach out to for help with different matters, and left a great deal of information. So she was very, very kind in doing that. So I think we will be okay, but I just wanted to share that with you tonight.
Well, thank you.
Madam Chair, I have one more item if
Yes.
you don't mind. I'm not sure if many of you know Gary Cruz. Gary Cruz was our first captain of the Wildwood precinct. He had been a police officer from a patrolman to captain for 37 years and has spent the last 12 years being the superintendent of Parks and Recreation here at the city of Wildwood. He is leaving the city on March 21st, and he'll be very, very hard to replace. But if you like our parks and trails, you owe him a debt of gratitude. So I just wanted to let you know. Thank you.
You're welcome. Steve, did you have something?
One thing that I've been thinking about for some time, there have been several, or I'm thinking of two projects specifically. One is we visited, over a year ago, the Mr. Phelan's property off Pond Road, where we gave him permission to tear down the building surrounding a log cabin and restore that. I assume that's been restored. You can't really see it from Pond Road. His gate's always closed. I would wonder if we, as the commission, could visit that property and see how he's done it and see what we could learn and see what's going on. And then there's the other one with our mayor that we approved some work on a log cabin at his place. And I would like to visit that. I think the commission would be a good idea for the commission to visit that property too. And that's a suggestion I think we could learn a lot from, especially Mr. Phelan, who has done some really nice around here. and to see how he's done his property, and if it's somehow we can use that in recommending, advising other people who want to tear down or modify some of their historic properties.
Well, Madam Chair, I'll be glad to contact Mr. Phelan and obviously Mayor Boland. And we'll see if they're willing to allow us to visit the property. I would probably say with our schedule in March, we may be looking at April, but April is springtime, so maybe that's
It'd be a
okay.
nice time to be out someplace like that. I seem to remember at one of the Celebrate Wildwood events, I don't think I had been on the commission too long at that point, where Mr. Boland had invited the commission to come out for a visit. And then, of course, the pandemic hit and everything was shut down. So do you remember that, Steve?
I don't remember that, but when he reappointed me to the commission, I told him one of my conditions were they would invite the commission out to his property, mainly because not only does he have that cabin, but he's got a new construction of his house, which is a beautiful and accurate reconstruction of a, I guess, a Edwardian building, a house. And it's beautifully done and very accurately done. And I think it would be good to see that as to what can be done, especially when we come up with infill properties and what can be built between some of these historical properties that are going to be new, but needs to blend in with it. So that'd be another building I'd like to see on his property. That's his home, so it's a little different than his log cabin.
Well, and again, I'll be glad to contact Mr. Phelan. And maybe if I could ask Miss Nyan, she might approach the mayor about the visit to the log cabin.
Thank
But
you.
Springtime would be a nice.
Yes.
We can wait.
Hey, anyone else have anything they want to comment on this evening? Well, it's great to have us all back together, and we'll say thank you. Mother Nature throws a little kink in plans sometimes, even though we weren't scheduled to have an in-person meeting tonight, but we know how convenient it is to have a Zoom meeting. So
Mother Nature, we had record high today, 88 degrees.
oh my word. Now that's Naples area.
That was high for Naples.
Oh, wow. One extreme to the other, right?
Yeah.
Of course, last week we had some 70-degree weather, so it wasn't a,
Yeah,
a
you
record,
guys had
but
big. It was cold then when down here. So.
so just stick around. If you don't like it, it will change.
Right.
So I guess we are kind of using this as also closing remarks, but our upcoming meeting will be on March the 24th, a Thursday. Are we continuing with Zoom at that time? Do we know yet?
I don't have an answer to that question, but
Okay.
as soon as I do, Robin and I will send out an email and let you
Okay,
know.
great. Okay, we appreciate all the things that you do for us. I can call for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Y'all want to stay with us for a while?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, and Tim seconds. Any other discussion on that? Again, thanks everyone for all the work you put into what we're doing. It's very important. So all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Well, it's goodbye for now.
Thank
Good
you
night,
all.
everyone.
Thanks,
Good night.
everyone.
Good night.